Okay, so we're going to make a video for ITA or anybody that we need to make a video for. So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to create a folder. Usually I do the folders in like a specific video folder, but for the sake of the demonstration, we will go ahead and make a folder. So you basically need an area to put all the files that are coming off the memory card. So for most videos we have drone photos and video. We have photos from the event that would go into the photos catalog, and then we'd have video files that would come in off the different cameras. So for this video, you can see here that I created a main folder called Baba9, because that's the video we're working on. And then in that folder, I made 3 folders: drone, photos, and video. So this is where we're going to work out of. Any audio that we download, anything related to the project, all goes into this master folder. So if you have to close Premiere for any reason and reopen it, it needs to look for these files as a reference. The audio we do not have loaded into here yet. So what we will do now is get the audio. Okay, so we have our audio folder opened up here. I put the memory card in the computer. It shows the memory card here in the portable storage. I open that up. Open up the stereo folder, open up folder 1 if we're using the Zoom mic, and I know that files 1 through 6 are going to be our audio files. So what I'll do is I'll make another folder inside of our project folder called audio. And then what I'm going to do is drag those audio files into the actual disk drive on the project folder, and make sure you close the USB folder, so you're not working off of a USB. That'll screw everything up when you go to render. So now you have your audio, drone, photos, and video. So now we're ready to get started. So here's the important process of starting up Premiere. So first we're going to go ahead and launch Premiere CS6. Let it load up, and then we have now a list of recent projects. So if you want to open up a recent project, you can do that here. What we're going to focus on is new project. Here we're going to give the project a name. So this one we're going to call Baba9. Don't worry about any of this other stuff. We know that our renderer is going to be the Mercury Playback Engine GPU accelerated because we're using a GPU card. So always make sure that this is selected and this is not selected. So make sure your GPU with CUDA is selected, and this will be selected by default. Here, for the location, this is where we're going to actually tell Premiere to save the video files. So you're always going to make sure that this is pointing to your scratch disk or your SSD disk. So if I hit browse, I know that my project is going to be saved in the 250 gig SSD scratch disk. You never want to have your project on the same disk drive that your project files are on. That slows down the render time. So you hit OK. It already exists because I started this 10 times and never finished it. This area you used to have to pay attention to a lot. You're setting up your frame rates and your codecs and all that kind of stuff here. This we don't really pay attention to too much, so usually I'll just leave it on whatever it selects as default. And then for the sequence name, leave this sequence 1. Hit OK. It's going to make you a big square, and this is definitely not 16:9 or 1080p or anything like that. So what you're going to do now is have your folder open where all your files are. Go into video. And since we're going to be using what the camera recorded at, which is 1080p at 30 frames per second, all I'm going to simply do is with this project pane tab opened up on this side, this will be opened up by default, I'm going to simply go ahead and drag a file, a video file, onto the actual project pane. And it'll load it up in here. The very next step is to drag this video file from here onto the timeline, and it's going to give you this prompt. It's going to say it doesn't match sequence settings, which is fine. We want to change the sequence settings. So make sure this is checked to always ask and change the sequence settings. And now it will automatically set up your sequence, which is basically just your video frame. So now you can scrub through and see exactly what your file is going to look like. So from this point, we actually have the foundation or the groundwork laid for making a video. So now the fun part comes in and loading the video clips. I always load my video clips in as I need them instead of dumping them all in there, because maybe some of this footage is garbage. I like to kind of preview it first. It keeps the actual save file size down. So once you have all this set up, I'll just do a Control S or a save. So it saves the project, so in case anything happens I can always relaunch it and everything's already set up. Okay, so before you get too deep into making your video, what I always like to do, since a lot of these videos have the same theme where there's usually a small introduction or a small montage of clips, and then the presenter actually speaking, what I like to do is kind of plan out how I want to do that stage in advance, and I also like to make sure I make a music selection. So to grab the music that you actually want to use, you're going to jump over to YouTube. Since these are all uploaded to YouTube, we want to make sure that the audio files that we're using aren't copywritten. So you're going to go to YouTube, you're going to make sure you're signed in. You're going to hit Creator Studio. Then from Creator Studio, you're going to hit Create. And then from here is where you're going to find your free music. And then this is where I'll come in and actually find a song that is appropriate for the video that I'm doing. So I'll pause it here, find the audio file, and then we'll pick it back up. Okay, so I saved you some time of going through all the audio files. We found a video that we like. It's called Believer. It's 4 minutes and 6 seconds long. This is another important thing to pay attention to. Kind of have an idea of how long you're going to make your video, because some of these clips, while they may sound cool, they're only 9 seconds or maybe even 57 seconds. That might not be enough time. Then you're going to deal with having to kind of stitch audio together, which never really works out in these corporate videos the way you want it to. So we're going to run with this audio track Believer, and Silent Partner does a lot of good audio on YouTube. So once you have one selected, you're going to use the download link here. It'll go ahead and prompt your download. Go ahead and, I always save everything to my desktop so I know what the latest and greatest stuff is that I've been working on. So I'm going to take, before we go any farther, make sure you open up your project file called Baba 9 and make sure you drag your song into audio. Big important step, because if you just start working off of your desktop, as this project grows and grows and grows, you'll notice you have a lot of files on your desktop. What I've done in the past is I work off the desktop, and then for some reason I have to close the project. Maybe a file gets deleted here or there, maybe a logo gets deleted, and then all of a sudden you have missing holes in your project when it tries to reference all those files. So remember, the way Premiere works is it works off of referencing the original locations of these files when you drag them into Premiere. So very important thing. So now that we have verified that Believer is actually in the folder and we play it, we know it's working. We can go ahead and delete this off the desktop to keep the desktop clean. So let's go back into our project here. Let's get the audio track Believer into the project pane. Here it is here. This is basically telling you that it's an audio file, and you can see that it'll scrub. I usually take my audio file now and I'll drag it into Audio 3. The reason why I bring it into Audio 3 is that if we say we had some voiceover work from a presenter, or we had some Zoom recording audio from their voice microphone, we want to drag that into Audio 2. If you do this and you overwrite, now I just ruined all the audio off of a file. So be very careful with where you place actual elements on your timeline. So always remember your music track is going to definitely go into Audio 3. Okay, before we go any further, now that we have an understanding of how you're going to kind of lay out your timeline, a very important thing to remember that what Premiere does is, remember initially we dragged the video file onto the timeline and we let it determine our sequence settings. Now that's a shortcut. That's not probably the most professional way to do it, but it does save a lot of time when you're trying to get these videos done. When we did that, we not only dragged the video file on there by dragging it here, we also dragged the audio file. So if you look closely at how this looks in the project pane, you'll see a video and an audio. So when we drag that here, you'll notice if I zoom in by dragging this back, there's an audio file associated. So let's go ahead and bring it to the back, and you'll hear all the background noise of us running the camera. Definitely not something we want. So technically our finished product would sound like this, with all that background noise. Not what we want in the video. So to do that is go ahead, now that set this up, delete your first video file, and you're going to double click on the actual video file that you're going to be working with. So when you double click, it puts it into the source pane. From the source pane, you have the option to choose if you want to drag the video file or if you want to drag the audio file. So in this case, we want to drag just the video file into the project timeline. Now, if we roll back and I turn off the audio, you'll not hear any audio. which is exactly what we want. So now if we put it all together, the result that we're looking for. So here's your foundation on starting to build. So what we want to do is we want this video to open up with some, maybe this walking shot once we get the camera stable, and then maybe bleeding it into a drone shot, and then maybe back to the event, maybe back to a pan of the people, maybe back to a drone, and then into the presenter speaking. So to do that, what I like to do so it doesn't make me so crazy is I'll turn off my audio file. You saw me doing that before. There's a toggle with a microphone. You go ahead and turn that off. So when you're scrubbing through your timeline by using this right here, you scrub left and you scrub right, it'll go ahead and not play that audio. If I leave this on, it becomes very annoying. So let's look at this clip here and see when we actually get the footage right. And it's looks like about right here. So I'm going to kind of just eyeball where it's at on the timeline here and just kind of play it. Right about there, it looks pretty smooth. So let's roll it back a little bit. I'm going to drag, by default, it's got this, when you bring your mouse over to the edge of the clip, it'll go ahead and bring this red icon up. Don't use this one, use this one. You're going to drag it to the left, and it'll automatically magnetically stop on this line. I'm going to take this file, I'm going to drag it back to the front of the video, and now this all kind of goes by what looks best in listening. So I'm going to preview it, and usually I like to keep my opening clips between 2 to 3.5 seconds long, maybe a little bit longer, it kind of depends. So let's go ahead and play it. I think right there where that piano comes in, we're going to stop it. So I'll just drag this video clip back, and there's our first clip. Now let's go back into our project folder and look at some of our drone footage that we have. And I think a good opening shot would probably be this one, where we fly the drone out of the building. So something like this maybe. So let's go ahead and use this clip. I'm going to close it. I'm going to drag this into the project pane. It's going to be here. I'm going to double click it. And now I'm going to drag. And now here's another thing. I'm going to drag this into the timeline about right here. I'm going to keep it away from my current project. The reason why I don't see it up here is because this timeline scrubber is not on the video file. It would have to be over here. So drag it over here, and you'll notice this is way blown up. And you're going to go, well, wait, where's all the actual really cool video footage? It looks way too blown out of proportion. And that's because this was shot in 4K, and our sequence setting is at 1080p. So really all that means is that this frame is 1920 wide. That's 1080p, 1920 by 1080, so 1920 pixels wide. The 4K video that we shot is around 3200 pixels wide. So while it fits in the frame nicely, you're not getting the full effect. So this is really useful. Shooting in 4K is really useful for advanced cropping and keeping the high definition aspect. So to fix this, we double click on the actual video file, and you'll notice now it'll all come into frame. And I just simply drag it down until I see these white bounding boxes. That's the actual outside of our video. So I let go, and now I'll go ahead and drag this down. And really all you're doing is repositioning this in the frame. So you're telling Premiere what you want in that shot. And in this case, we want all of the shot. So we want to make sure we don't have any black space. So like, this wouldn't be good. We don't want to see the white line. We want to kind of see it there and hidden on all sides, so we don't have any banding or any black box showing. So then I simply click out of it into the gray area, and now we have the entire shot in the frame. So now we can go ahead and actually do our video file. Okay, so I have an idea of the shot that I'm trying to get here, and I'm going to start the shot here where obviously the conference happened in this room here. So we want to get the fly out, because the first shot it shows us walking down this railing. The second shot is going to show this flying away. So I have my timeline marker exactly where I want that shot to start. So I simply go over here, and I'm going to drag this back to the timeline marker, and then I'm going to take the video file by clicking it, highlighting it, and dragging it until it magnetically stops against the first video file there. It creates a black line. I let the mouse go, and now I can preview how this is going to look. And keep in mind, even though I have a lot of RAM running on this computer, 4K video in a live timeline will always kind of get sketchy after a minute. So you kind of have to understand when you're working with any of the drone stuff, it will slow down on playback. So you can only really watch a little bit at a time, but let's kind of see how this is going to come out. So that's kind of cool. So what I want to do is kind of time my clips with the audio. So this shot is actually, the drone shot's actually going to consist of a couple of different splices. So to splice this properly, what we want to do is use our ears. So we're going to listen to the audio on playback. So let's go. Right there. So right here in the footage, and you'll look over on this side, you can visually see the audio. Right there. So we're going to cut by using the cut razor tool. This is actually going to pretend like it's splicing film. We're going to cut, and as long as you're close enough to this red line on the timeline, it'll go ahead and cut it exactly where you want it. When you cut it, it actually creates a splice in the video footage for you to move and drag. So now I'm going to take the remaining bit of footage and drag it over here. So what I want to do is go have the opening shot of the rail, have a drone shot, have a shot of the people inside, back to drone, back to building, and then maybe a longer shot of the drone and then into presenter. So we're only 2 seconds and 24 milliseconds into the video, and I've made this introduction video almost 10 minutes long. So let's go ahead and get that shot. So the next clip we want to include in the video is going to be just a shot of the actual gathering, the attendees of the meeting. So I dragged the clip that I want in here, and I'm going to go ahead and look at this clip, double click on it, and drag that footage in to the timeline. And let's actually take a look at the actual footage of what we want. The initial footage is actually pretty good, because what I'm looking for is some movement. I mean, obviously everybody's sitting down, but I'm looking for, obviously the presenter actually has some movement on the shot. So in all your shots, you really want to try to make sure that they're moving. Anything that's tripoded should always still be rolling a positive zoom or running some sort of a pan, so the video doesn't ever stop its momentum. So let's go ahead and drag this clip as our next clip, and let's play it from the top and figure out our next breakpoint. So about right there. And I can visually see that the audio spikes here. So let's go ahead and cut this. We can delete the rest. And let's bring the drone back into action here. Actually, you know what? I decided something differently. Since the duration on the third clip has a longer sustain on the piano, I'd really rather show more of my drone and less of the people. So, because this is a teaser. So what we're going to do is actually, the way to do this quickly is, we know our breakpoints already. So let's drag our video file here. It'll stop. Let's extend the footage to here. Let's go ahead and then swap the actual people with the drone and drag this back and then drag it back down. So now let's test it.
That was good. Better.
So now we have a better shot. So the next thing I want to show, the next clip we want to do is showing the presenter. So let's go ahead and drag the presenter into the video frame, and let's go ahead and drag him. And remember, the Premiere timeline is always wonky, so if I just drop this here, it's going to cut off all this on the drone footage. So try to keep it above. I always try to use the video 3 and 2 frames to work on. So let's go ahead and... Okay, so let's see this again from the top. Here we go. We're going to stop here. Here's our next breakpoint. Let's go ahead and cut this video here. Delete the tail, because we're not going to need it right now. And whenever you delete off of here, it's never doing anything to the source. So I could always re-drag the original source out and not have any loss of footage. But if you're color grading, and you go ahead and delete off, and you re-drag something back onto the timeline, remember that new footage will not be graded the same way, so you will have to re-color grade. So I'll get into that in another video. So let's go ahead and... Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit. We have a little bit of a discrepancy in the audio, so let's see. We'll bring it to here. And let's now do maybe since we got a testimonial from somebody, let's go ahead and drag a close-up of somebody actually speaking, but not play their audio. So let's use Larry here for an example. Let's drag Larry onto the timeline. And let's go ahead and this is how you zoom, by the way. So I drag this right side bar and I drag it out to zoom out. I drag it in to zoom in. And this is really good for looking at your milliseconds on your timeline. So right now in this clip, Larry's getting ready to talk. So he's not really being himself. So let him switch into his presenter mode where he's smiling and looking happy. There we go. So this clip right here is what we actually want to use in the video. So let's go ahead and zoom out. I'm going to drag this to the left. Let's drag him up to here till we have that snap lock. Let's drag some of this footage back because we're not going to use that much. Let's turn this back on and see how this is going to look. Right there. It says Baba 9, which is perfect. You can almost see what he's saying. So now let's take this, drag this down into our primary area, and then we're going to end off this shot with a very wide pan from the drone, which would be really cool. So something about here. I like this shot here. So let's go ahead and trim this back. Let's bring this forward. And let's see exactly how much of this footage we want to actually use. So about right here is where we'll go ahead and fade into the actual presenter speaking. But before all that, I do want to touch on a little bit of color grading. If you look at the file on the left, which is shot with a Canon 5D Mark III with a 24-105 lens, and you look at the shot on the right, this is shot on a Inspire 1 Pro with an X5 camera, which is a very good camera, but you'll notice it doesn't really match the same color profile, and that's because it hasn't been color graded at all. What I like to do with my drone stuff, there's two different things you can do with when you're trying to produce videos at a rapid pace. What you could do is you can use the autocorrector. So if we go into video effects, this is our, remember, here's where we were working on our project. This is our effects pane. So let's go ahead and look at effects. Then on effects, you'll have video effects, and there's a lot of effects in this folder. So if we look at adjust, and we look at auto color and auto contrast, let's look at what auto color will do. You'll notice that everything kind of gets a little bit more definition when we do that. So before, after. We do auto color and we do auto contrast. Usually this is pretty good. But what I will do is I'll use something called curves. And if you're familiar with curves in Photoshop, it's really the exact same thing. So if we go into color correction and then we go into RGB curves, which is red, green, blue curves, and we drag this onto the and basically all I'm doing is just dragging the effect onto the actual video. We go to effect controls, and here are our curves. So what I like to mess with on the drone stuff is the master curves. So these are your deeper tones, these are your highlights. So if we take about right here and drag them down to get some of the glare out, and we go into our mid-range and drag our mid-range up just a tiny bit to create an S, and you can kind of dip your highs down, dip your highs up. Right about there is the look we want. So you're basically creating an S curve with your colors, and you're just basically messing around with the color band. But that's something that looks really, really cool. Now keep in mind, we did it to this piece of footage, but we didn't do it to this piece of footage back here. So you're going to have a little bit of a continuity issue. So that's easily corrected because we already know kind of how we're going to do our curves. We'll drop curves back on here. We will tweak the mids and the highs, just create a little bit of an S-band, and that should be good for this video. So let's roll it back from about here, figure out where we're going to stop it, and get the presenter to speak. I have a better idea with this. After looking at it, I want the drone footage to come in when the drums hit. Right here. Right here. So I'm going to drag our drone footage forward. We had Larry talking. Let's do something a little bit different because not everybody may know what he's saying. So let's go ahead and delete Larry's piece off of here. Let's go ahead and drag Larry in here with his audio. So you'll notice when I'm dragging him in here, if I just drag him into video 3, I overwrite audio 3. So keep him on audio 2, video and audio 2. Let's find the spot where Larry's saying Baba 9.
This is Larry Beecham here at Baba 9.
I love that. So let's go.
Larry Beecham here at Baba 9.
I like that. So let's see what this looks like. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and do something here. I'm going to drop the volume back on this audio file for just a second. So the video file is going to start with negative audio. When it gets to here in the timeline, I'm going to dot it. And I'm going to say when it gets to this keyframe, let's pick up the audio to say a negative 10 decibel. Let's try this. I'm going to put these in front of the actual video. So something like that where we can actually hear him. So that's kind of a test. Let's get everything back to the way it was. Do we like that? Alright, so I don't think the clip of him talking is actually going to work for the video. And this is all part of doing a video. You'll think something will work, sometimes it doesn't. So let's actually, because I feel like it's going to take away from the actual introduction that's about to happen here. So let's do a shot of the building that we got here, the actual name of the building, City Hall. Let's drag that in here, and let's play it until the clip gets stable. We shot this on a Ronin. So kind of right there is where we want to be. So let's bring that back, and let's make this the long clip so people can really get an idea of where we were. And let's roll this back and see how it looks. And we had an error with that clip. Let's go ahead and back it up here. Let's look at another clip maybe. Let's see what else we have here. A panner shot there. That guy looks a little scared. Let's see what we could use. Let's try this drone shot here to replace it. This might be neat because it's going to go into the drone footage. No? 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 My partner doesn't like that. Let's try another one. Okay, we found a good one here. We're going to use the same walking clip, but this time, since the drone shot's going to actually show the actual building, let's go ahead and use where we're closer to the curved windows. So let's get it to about here. So if you think about here is good. I like that.
Before that pole.
Yeah, right there. So let's go ahead and bring that in instead. And this is all what video editing is. It's very time consuming if you're actually paying attention to what you're doing, but the end result's really good. That works. I like this. Okay, so now we have our little intro, and it's a 15-second little bumper to give the audience a little bit of a taste of how, or what, we're setting the scene is really all we're doing. So now let's actually get the presenter speaking, and I'm going to drag that file into the project pane. And for this file, since we want his audio and his video, we're going to go ahead and just drag the entire clip into the sequence right here. So now, It's a matter of getting him right when he starts talking. Right about right here. So let's go ahead and drag that back. Let's drag this forward. And let's see what this looks like.
Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Overstreet. I'm the founder and director of the Become a Better Agent conference, or as we call it, BABA. We're here today at Madeira Beach.
So you'll notice that the audio is too loud and he's not loud enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an audio drop. So in order for this to not sound really obvious that his audio is piping in, what we're going to do is take the timeline, zoom in a little bit, take your timeline, drag it a couple octaves back to about here. I like this right here. Click on your audio file, click on your Effect Controls panel, don't touch anything. We already started the audio at a -10 decibel. We want to go ahead and add a timestamp on the keyframe. So hit this button here, and now we're going to say from this moment in time until we get to this moment in time, which is when he starts talking, go from 10 decibel, hit the keyframe button again, drop this down to -17 decibels. On this audio file, -17 will work. Now, this is the result we'll get.
Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Overstreet. I'm the founder and director of the Become a Better Agent conference, or as we call it, BABA. We're here today at Madeira Beach at the City Hall Center, and we just had the best BABA event ever. It was BABA 9, and we had a completely packed house, standing room only at one point, until we brought in some more chairs, and it was great. Thank you so much if you were here. Thank you so much to the presenters. Our presenters keep getting better every time, and let me tell you about BABA 10. Number one, it's 10. So our 10th event is going to be our biggest event. We have committed to having 200 realtors in the room at the Carrollwood Country Club, and that's going to be on Thursday, July 14th at 9 a.m. until about 1 p.m., followed by, for anyone who's interested, any agent who wants to play golf, that's going to be handled by Guaranteed Rate Home Loans. So please come join us. It's going to be a fantastic event. It's going to be tough to top this one, but we're going to do it. See you there.
Let's stop it here. And let's go. Yeah, this guy can talk. Love Kevin. Alright, so right here, when you stop all your video files, you want to try, especially if they know what they're doing like Kevin does. He always definitely stops on a smile. Always make sure you stop on a smile. Don't ever bring it to where they do this. Because if anybody sees this, it totally takes the emotion out of what you just saw. So here is where you want to stop it. So we're going to go ahead and just simply trim it back by dragging it to the left. And bingo, that's what we have. So now we have a really cool introduction. We have a really cool opener. And the other rule of thumb that you want to pay attention to in terms of creating videos and movies for YouTube and websites and everything else is your shot duration. So you don't want to have too much time showing, say, the presenter speaking without B-roll. And B-roll is just simply keeping the audio, keeping the video where it is, but maybe playing some other footage over the top of when he's speaking. So what I like to do is when he mentions a place that he's actually going to be having another event at, I'll show some footage if I've already gotten it of that actual location. When he mentions the venue that he's currently at, I'll try to show some. This is comes especially handy if you have a drone. Is I'll do the aerial shots of when he actually shows the actual, when he speaks about the actual event. But we really kind of did a lot of those on the intro. So also, when he talks about a lot of people, we'll go ahead and show a lot of shots of people. So right now, I guess I'm going to split this video up into 2 parts maybe, or maybe just make this really long. But this is when you're going to start to incorporate your B-roll. Okay, so for the first bit of B-roll, we're going to listen to what he says here.
Hey everyone. My name is Kevin Overstreet. I'm the founder and director of the Become a Better Agent conference, or as we call it, BABA. We're here today at Madeira Beach.
He just said Madeira Beach. Okay, so let's grab the footage here where he says Madeira Beach, and let's find out the exact spot so we know where to drop it.
Or as we call it, BABA. We're here today at Madeira Beach.
Madeira Beach. So let's go ahead and grab our Madeira Beach sign before the Ronin drops out. Let's get about right here. Let's see how this looks.
At the City Hall Center, and we just had the best We're here today at Madeira Beach at the City Hall Center, and we just had the best Baba event ever.
So as to make that not so harsh, where it shows the B-roll, especially if you're going to have some short B-roll, I'm going to go back into the effects pane. I'm going to go into video transitions. I'm going to click on video transitions. I'm going to click on the arrow that drop down dissolve. I'm going to go ahead and drag cross dissolve onto the front side of the B-roll. I'm going to drag cross dissolve onto the back side. It's going to fill it up pretty good. If you look here, you'll see where it's got the cross dissolve effect here and here. But this is how it's going to look.
Madeira Beach at the City Hall Center, and we just had the best Baba event ever. It was.
So it fades out a little too quick for my liking. And let's change the fade in. And this is how you change your durations of how long it's dissolving. So let's look again.
Beach at the City Hall Center, and we just had the best Baba event ever.
Best Baba event ever. So Baba is definitely a meeting of people. So let's look at some of our footage again that we have.
As a vacant piece of land. Nick has that also listed as a.
Let's use that right there where we actually bring the Ronin and pan up. So let's go back into here, drag this piece of footage onto the timeline, double click it, bring it back in, and bring this right here. Let's find the best spot. Right here where the camera rises up nice and smooth is what we want to use. Let's go ahead and drag that back over to here. Drag it underneath so it dissolves over the top of that clip. And let's figure out where we want to stop it listening.
Today at Madeira Beach at the City Hall Center, and we just had the best Baba event ever. It was Baba 9, and we had a completely packed house, standing room.
Packed house. So let's stop it there. Let's fade it back into Kevin so we can see him talking again. We don't want to take up too much of this with B-roll. Let's do a longer cross dissolve here.
And we had a completely packed house, standing room only at one point, until we brought in some more chairs, and it was great. Thank you so much if you were here. Thank you so much to the presenters. Our presenters keep getting better every time, and let me tell you about Baba 10. Number one, it's 10. So our 10th event is going to be our biggest event. We have committed to having 200 realtors in the room at the Carrollwood Country Club.
Carrollwood Country Club is the next thing he says. So, I don't have any footage of the Carrollwood Country Club, but what I do have are golfers. So let's go ahead and drop a clip or two of some shots being hit on the golf course, and that will bring the feeling of golf, country club, it'll tie it all together. Okay, what's cool is I actually have the same client that I'm working with in this video and footage from previous videos. So here's a really cool clip that we got at a golf course, and unless you're really familiar with the greens, this could almost be faked for Carrollwood Country Club shot. So right here where I do like a roll pan, maybe not that fast, but something like this would work. So let's go ahead and use this clip. So let's go back to our Baba video. I'm going to go ahead and copy this clip. Do Control C and then Control V. So this clip is actually in our new project folder. And let's get a shot of a golfer. Let's look here. We have Ryan here who did a couple of pretty good shots. Let's just get a swing shot. If I can find one here. This is when he was talking. Let's get some swinging here. This is actually pretty cool. A fist bump.
Again. Love it.
That's cool, but you wouldn't really know we're at a golf course. Let's go ahead and do this one maybe. This is all part of it. Figuring out
Might not be the best spot for
what clips you want to use and putting them together. That's pretty cool. Good form. I like that clip. Let's copy that and paste that. Don't overthink it. So we're good there. So let's open up a project again. Go back to our, what was our other projects video? And let's open up our source videos. Let's go to project pane. Always make sure your project pane is open when you're dragging and dropping. You're going to be doing it twice. I'm going to take these two video clips here by holding Control and clicking on them, dragging those two into the project timeline. Let's go ahead and listen again to when we're going to drop the first clip.
We have committed to having 200 realtors in the room at the
Carrollwood Country Club. So right here, we're going to show some golf aerial shots. So let's go ahead and drop that in about there. Let's see what this is going to look like here.
Country Club, and that's going to be on Thursday,
I don't like that movement in the camera. Let's bring it back to here.
July 14th at 9 a.m.
Love that. That's a good enough time. Let's drag this. Oops. Let's drag this back. Let's then show the golfer swinging. About right there. Let's drag that back. And you'll get faster over time. Don't try to go as fast as I'm going, even though I'm making this a really long video.
Going to be on Thursday, July 14th at 9 a.m. until about 1 p.m., followed by...
Love it right there. So right there, we'll trim it back. Let's go into Effects, Cross Dissolve. Let's put a Cross Dissolve on the back of that clip. And let's put a Cross Dissolve on the front of this clip coming in. And don't over abuse Cross Dissolve. It's done a lot in amateur video making, so usually just try to keep it on your B-roll.
July 14th at 9 a.m. until about 1 p.m., followed by, for anyone who's interested, any agent who wants to play golf, that's going to be handled by Guaranteed Rate Home Loans. So,
Guaranteed Rate Home Loans. So right there is probably we're gonna drop a Guaranteed Rate Home Loans logo or some variant of which. So we'll get to that later.
please come join us. It's going to be a fantastic event. It's going to be tough to top this one, but we're going to do it. See you there.
Awesome. So now we've broken up this video clip a few different times, so it's not so focused on him the entire time. So there's always the visual energy. Okay, so what we're going to look at really quick is let's look at our board. So already our timeline is getting filled up with different pieces. So you'll notice as I was working, I'm dragging videos up onto different layers, and that's really just to keep them out of this area here. We don't want to drag anything and overwrite it. So now that we kind of have a foundation laid and we have our B-roll, let's go ahead and organize this a little bit. So I'll take this clip and make sure you keep your mouse straight, drag it straight down, this clip, drag it straight down, and then this clip right here, we're going to drag straight down. Now we have everything organized on the timeline. So we have main video is video 1, B-roll is video 2. Anything that we're going to work on is going to come up here in video 3 and 4. I also want to go over an important point. Say, for example, you dragged this, say we have this cleaned up and we know exactly how our video wants to work. Say you drag this now all into video 1 to keep things clean. It'll still play the exact same way as before.
Air Beach at the City Hall Center, and we just had the best Baba event ever.
But you'll notice that it's blacking out, and you have to change out your effects that are at the tails. Also, this is a very bad way of doing things because say now you want to come back and edit, and I drag this back up to video 2, I've now lost that footage. So now I'd have to either extend this footage back if I can, but it won't let me. So it causes a whole host of problems by incorporating everything into one video timeline. So keep that in mind. You always want to work in layers. And another way to think about it is what's visible on screen is the highest layer in the timeline. So while we still have video 1 playing back here the entire time, we're getting his audio, but it's going to show these 2 B-roll clips instead of the initial video clip because these are higher in the timeline. Okay, another very important bit of work you want to do on your video are things called on-screen titles. So I like to make all my titles in After Effects, and there's a couple of really great pre-set up templates for you to do it on. I'll give you a link in the description of where I get mine, but this is very important. You can actually go ahead and add titles through Premiere. So when he says, "Hi, I'm Kevin Overstreet," I'll actually go into my area where I keep some of my title work, and I will open up my titles project. This will open up After Effects CS6, and if you're not familiar with After Effects, you can take a couple of tutorials on it. It's not what we're using it for anyways. You don't really need to know that much about it. While it does help, not 100% necessary. So this looks familiar, similar to Premiere, but this basically is going to show his actual name when it comes up. So usually Title 1 will handle it, something like this. Just to kind of be a subtle title that comes in. So what I'll do is I'll click on Title 1. You can look at all of these. These are categorized by title and also a timeline. So look for your dots down here, and then you can kind of just test it out by scrolling it and see if this is a title you want to use or not. these are a little bit more professional than just adding a little bit of text on the screen in Premiere. So we can kind of go through some of these, and you can kind of get an idea. Like, you know, if I do maybe Kevin Overstreet with that might look cool. Let's go ahead and do that. So to customize this, you want to see where it says Title 4. There's a folder underneath it that says Text. Open up Text, and then it'll have Text 1 and Text 2. So, as long as you stay within the boundaries of the black box that the creator has given you, you're okay. And this will be a very fast process. If you decide to go out of the bounding box, you want to make the bounding box bigger, you have to make a lot more adjustments. And while it is possible, your 2-hour project will turn into an 8-hour project really quickly. So let's go ahead and double click on the text. All I did was double click on it. I'm going to hit caps lock since this text is in caps, and I'm going to type in Kevin. And you'll notice now that I've done that, oh yeah, and also you got to always release caps lock in order so you can see what's going on in After Effects. Since I've done that, let's look back at this clip now, and you'll notice now that it's all out of whack. Kevin needs to be over here. So to do that, I'll open up Text 1 again, and it's selected. I'll drag it to the left, and I'll get it just right. I'm looking for equal space up here, equal space down here, and a really thin line here, just so I'm not cutting off the text. Now if we look at it, it'll actually line up nicely. So let's go ahead and get rid of purchase and put his last name here. Ooh, caps. And you'll notice that it's a little big. So no matter where I position it, it's too big. So that's okay. In video work, it's acceptable to drop down the font size a little bit by using this font slider. So all I did was double click so everything was highlighted, and I just used my mouse to drag the font left or right, just like that. So let's get it to about here. Let's use the move tool that's up here, or the selection tool, and let's drag it to where it fits. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's say about there. And that looks pretty good. Pretty spot on. So let's go back to, and also here is where all your open elements are. So let's go back to Title 4. And now we can see it looks really cool. The last thing we want to modify is the color of the line. So Baba, their logo traditionally has a lot of teals, turquoises, and blues in it. So let's find a nice teal color. The way to do this is you click on More Options, which is right here. When Title 4 is opened, you click on More Options. You click on Options once, don't double click it, and you hit the F3 key. When you hit the F3 key, it opens up the Effects Controls Options tab. You'll notice that I can toggle it here by simply hitting the F3 key. Here's where you change your color of the actual line. So click on the yellow color that you see. Let's drag this to, say, a turquoise, something like that. Looks pretty cool. Hit OK, and now it's changed it. From here, you may be rushed into starting the render. You don't render the More Options layer. You render the Title 4 layer, or the title layer. So always render your title layer. Don't render your Text 1, 2, or More Options layer. So to render, you simply go to Composition. You're going to go to Add to Render Queue. And it's going to pop open your render queue. Now here's all my previous renders. Scroll to the very bottom. You'll see render number 63 on Title 4. This is our latest one. It's highlighted with a lighter gray. You're going to change the output module from lossless. You're going to change lossless. You're going to change the video output. Change the channels to RGB plus alpha. This is red, green, blue, blue color with alpha transparency. Very important. If we didn't change this, it would keep the black box and it would be a completely useless file. So once you've changed just this line, leave everything else the same, hit OK. Then go Output to. Change this, where it says title4.avi, you're going to change this to what it actually is saying. So I'm going to type in Kevin title. Normally, you want to save this to your project folder. So I'm going to just save it to my desktop for now for demonstration purposes. Let's hit the render button. It's right here. Depending on how fast your processor is will depend on how fast this will actually render. Okay, completed, and it saved it to my desktop. Here it is. Beautiful. And now while you see a black background here, let's go ahead and first, remember our project folder? Let's go ahead and drag this title into our project folder so everything's all together. That may take a second. These titles tend to be pretty big. I might have rendered a little too much, but that's okay. We'll fix that. Here it is now here. Let's go ahead and drag this into Premiere. Oh, and this is what I meant by not having the project tab open yet. Give me 1 second. Yeah, let's try this again. Drag it into here. And right here is where his title is. So now let's listen to where he says, "I'm Kevin Overstreet."
Hey everyone, my name's Kevin Overstreet.
Right there. So my name is, let's back it up a couple frames. Let's drop in Kevin title. And we know that this is way too long. I'm going to drag this back a little bit.
My name's Kevin Overstreet. I'm the founder and director of the Become a Better Agent.
There we go. It looks kind of cool. It's right in front of his face though. So to move this, I double click on it. Double click. You'll see these bounding boxes come up. Now I can drag it. And I think it's a little too large. So I'm going to go ahead and drag one of the top corners and just bring it down at an angle. About right there. Let's make that come in about right here on his suit.
Hey everyone.
My name is Kevin Overstreet, so let's bring it back again.
Hey everyone, my name's Kevin Overstreet. I'm the founder and director of the Become a Better Agent conference, or as we call it.
And it cut off too soon, so let's extend it out a little bit more. These have built-in transitions in them. Alright, there's good. Let's play it back.
Hey everyone, my name's Kevin Overstreet. I'm the founder and director of the Become a Better Agent conference, or as we call it, Baba. We're here today at Madeira Beach at the City Hall Center, and we just had the best Baba event ever. It was Baba.
I don't like that transition either. Let's see what happened here. Yeah, that's the problem. Let's go ahead and drag. The way we fix this is we drag this up and drag this over, so this fades over the top of that clip. Much better. Okay, so we have our title there. Let's listen to when he actually has other important things to say, and we'll add titles to those. Okay, so now let me show you how to drop in a logo. He mentions guaranteed rate home loans here.
For anyone who's interested, any agent who wants to play golf, that's going to be handled by Guaranteed Rate Home Loans. So
right there. So what we want to do is just subtly drop in the Guaranteed Rate Home Loans logo. We definitely have permission to do so. I'm going to drop it in this white area here. This is where obviously the exposure settings were tweaked on the camera to make sure that he was lit. The background kind of blows out a little bit, but that works in our advantage for this video. So I went ahead and found the Guaranteed Rate logo. I saved it to my desktop. I'm going to go ahead and drop it into my video folder here. Let's drag the Guaranteed Rate logo into Premiere, into our project pane. Now let's drag the logo from the project pane into the video file, and I'm going to extend it out a little bit. Here it is. Let's double click it. Let's resize it, and let's drag it where we want. Right about there looks good. Let's add some effects to it. I'm going to go ahead and again use dissolve. I really like dissolve on these videos for B-roll, like I said in the beginning. Let's change our dissolve duration on the logo to about here, and then we'll adjust our time that it comes in and the time it goes out.
to play golf, that's going to be handled by
Right here. It says guaranteed rate. So let's drag it here.
Guaranteed Rate Home Loans. So please come join us. It's going to be a fantastic event. It's going to be tough to top this one, but we're going to do it. See you there.
Awesome. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how you're going to do your video. The next thing you want to pay attention to is your outro. So at this event, we were able to actually get the attendees to do a little wave to the drone. So let's show on the outro a few shots of the, let's see, I got some really good footage of flying. Let's see, we got takeoff shots, got some waterside shots. All these are really cool. If we use this shot, they may not necessarily, actually that might work pretty cool. Let's go ahead and use this. I like this flyover shot. Let's drag this here into the project pane. Always make sure your project pane is loaded. Close out our titles folder. We don't need that right now. Let's drag this shot of the drone there. And we got a shot of them waving. So here's all the whole group This is where we're going to go ahead and actually close it out. Right there. So that's beautiful. So let's drop this into the project pane. So let's do we want to do Baba first, or do we want to do the flyaway first? Let's go ahead and do Baba first. So let's look at the footage again. Remember what I said about 4K. We got to double click your 4K, drag it, and resize it so it fits. A little bigger. Perfect. About there, right before they do it.
But we're going to do it. See you there.
Let's go ahead and actually make that the last thing they see. So let's find our fly out footage, which is here. I'm going to drag this way up here because it's very long. And let's go to the midpoint of where we think we're flying over.
Thursday, July.
Right about here. Let's resize it. There's good. Bigger. Okay. Just drag it to the back.
There.
Love that. Nice long fly out over Madeira Beach. And now we can go into where they chant. Problem with this shot is, and I goofed, I should have had a mic set up where I actually got them to say Baba. So that'll be a mistake that I'll admit to, and I will go ahead and make sure I get that on the next one. But what we can do, since we always started our music out at -10, let's go ahead and raise the volume of the music for the outro. So let's go ahead and drag our timeline back to here a little bit before he's done speaking. Click on the Believer MP3 file, go to Effects Controls, touch on the level right here, so you'll keyframe it here so it maintains -17 decibels from when he starts talking till when he's finished talking. Drag your timeline now to right here, right before the drone footage comes in. So right here. Dot it again and go to 0. This will be louder than anybody's used to hearing, which will hide some of the fact that we can't get the Baba audio. So let's see how this works out.
Event. It's going to be tough to top this one, but we're going to do it. See you there.
Got a little bit of a sketchiness, obviously, with the RAM. Perfect. So we can use that and end the video. And let's add another couple titles in here, and I'll pause this for the sake of trying to keep this under an hour. Okay, I'm making just a visit babaevent.com title here, and this is all just going to be kind of eyeballed. This is going to be a centered title. Caps. babaevent.com. Let's go ahead and resize this down a little bit. And After Effects is a little bit of a pain in the ass when it comes to that caps thing, but you'll get used to it after a while if you're working in caps a lot. And this is kind of what we want here. Visit babaevent.com. That comes in at the end. Let's go ahead and get into our color. And you want to try to keep your colors consistent, so I'll usually copy down the hex value that reads out right here and keep using that. But this video doesn't really have a lot of titles, so it's okay. And let's go ahead and render. Remember, don't render more options. I almost did it. Hit title 5 first. Change this to RGB plus alpha. Hit OK. Save this as website, because that's what it's talking about. And hit render. And for the sake of keeping the video file short, I will watch this and hit the stop button on the rendering when I'm completely certain that it's done playing. So let's go ahead and drag this now into our video file here. And let's get this into our timeline for the last bit of this video. If my computer will cooperate with me. Remember, I'm working off of a Western Digital green hard drive, which isn't the best to keep your footage on. I really should have dropped all this onto an SSD first, but live and learn. So if we put a cross dissolve on the back of this drone shot, and we have website come in, and right as that's fading out, we're going to have the music fade out. Now our audio track goes all the way out to here. So what we want to do is bring our audio track back to here, and we're going to use an effect called Audio Transitions, Crossfade, Exponential Fade. Bring exponential fade onto the audio track and watch what it does. Bingo. So, in a nutshell, that's how you create a video. So what I'll do is I'm going to show you now how to render the video, and you'll be able to actually view the finished product. But first, remember I talked about color grading. I really do want to color grade some of this drone footage, so let's do that again. Video effects, color correction. Let's go into the RGB curves. Let's drop them onto this file here. Let's kind of play around with these a little bit, kind of bring out some of the characteristics in it. And this is all in what you think looks good for the video. You can color grade these videos a million different ways, and I'll do a video on just how I color grade everything. If you have a lot of time, if you don't have a lot of time, different grading styles, different auto color grades. All this kind of works for these videos here. So let's play around with the red curves a little bit. You can kind of do that, but if you get too crazy, it gets a little too nutty there. So try to keep your colors all this, your color bands all the same. So that looks pretty good. Cool. So now let's go ahead and render it. So when you render, you go to File, Export, Media. You go down here where it says Source Range. You change Source Range to Entire Sequence. You go up to Format. You go to H.264, which is the codec you want to use. Preset. It's going to basically default back to a 1080p 29.97, which is fine. Don't mess with that. Output name. This is going to be the name of the video, so let's call this Baba 9 video. Save. And we're going to look at some of this other stuff here. Frame rate is 29.97. That's what we shot it at on the camera. That's what we're going to keep it at. Let's check maximum render quality. Let's check at maximum render depth. Let's change our target bit rate to 8. 8 seems to produce a pretty good quality, and it jumps the file size by about double, but it's worth it. Leave keyframe distance alone now. Take a look at the output. Is going to be 1920 wide by 1080 high, which is a 1080p video at 8 megabytes per second, 160 kilobyte per second with 48 kilohertz stereo. Perfect. Hit export. And again, depending on how fast your computer is how long it will take to render. So I will pause this for the sake of rendering time. Okay, we're coming into the end of the rendering here. Once it's done, you'll see this screen dismiss off of the page and you're back to your project. So simply just go ahead and File, Save Project, and close it out. You don't need it anymore. Let's go ahead and close everything out, and this is where it actually saved the video, right here on our desktop where we saw it. So let's go ahead and play it and see what it looks like.
Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Overstreet. I'm the founder and director of the Become a Better Agent Conference, or as we call it, BABA. We're here today at Madeira Beach at the City Hall Center, and we just had the best BABA event ever. It was BABA 9, and we had a completely packed house, standing room only at one point, until we brought in some more chairs, and it was great. Thank you so much if you were here. Thank you so much to the presenters. Our presenters keep getting better every time, and let me tell you about BABA 10. Number one, it's 10. So our 10th event is going to be our biggest event. We have committed to having 200 realtors in the room at the Carrollwood Country Club. Club, and that's going to be on Thursday, July 14th at 9 a.m. until about 1 p.m., followed by, for anyone who's interested, any agent who wants to play golf, that's going to be handled by Guaranteed Rate Home Loans. So please come join us. It's going to be a fantastic event. It's going to be tough to top this one, but we're going to do it. See you there.
So that's it. That's the final video. So next thing to do is just simply upload this to YouTube, title it accordingly, put your description and your links. If you're using somebody else's music, make sure you do not monetize your video. And if you do use somebody else's music, make sure you definitely credit them back in the description and give them a little link love. So my name is Brian. I hope this video helped anybody that has no idea how to make a video and they have programs and footage, and that's it. So if you have any questions, by all means, please ask me. I do apologize that this video is now almost an hour and 6 minutes, but again, if you don't see the whole process, then there's no way in hell you're actually going to learn how to do anything, and you don't have to search to find little pieces here and there. So again, major apologies on my long-winded videos, but I do like to be thorough. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, see you later.